Good evening. You're watching Latino Talk TV. I'm your host, Jose Luis Jimenez.
And I'm Ben Mendez.
I hope you're having a good evening out there. We're here at Houston Media Source in Houston, Texas. It's wet and cold and rainy out there, but we're actually going to have a great time on the show tonight. We have some very special guests with us, and what we're going to do is we're going to get right into the topics. But the important part of it is that we're going to talk politics, we're going to talk arts. We're also going to talk about business and accounting. And we're going to end the show with the Serve team and talk about all the good work that's going on out there in Houston. Before we get into the topics, Ben, what's been going on in the community?
Well, as you know, we have the Olympics that started. And already there's some ruckus going on around what's happening in Russia, especially the fact that Obama did not send a lot of his higher-up cabinet members to Russia. So there's a lot of speculation as to really what's going on behind the scenes.
Did you see about the athlete who had to break a window in the door that got jammed?
No, I did not see that one.
They've been having a lot of issues with the infrastructure. They weren't ready for the athletes. There's a lot of pictures being posted about how bad the situation is for the athletes themselves. And there was, I think, a bobsledder that got stuck in one of the bathrooms, and he had to escape, and he had to break the door open with his bobsled to be able to climb out of the bathroom.
Well, I saw a picture of two toilets right next to each other and nothing in between. I thought that was kind of unusual.
It's Europe for you.
Well, you know, for those of you out there in the community, we're going to let our guest introduce himself right now. And that way, and his title, so we won't mess him up. So please go ahead and introduce yourself.
First of all, what a pleasure it is to be here on Latino Talk with you fine gentlemen, and to talk about Hispanic issues and issues that are, you know, crucial to our community, things that people should know about. My name is Eduardo Lopez de Casas, and I'm the artistic director and founder of the All Saints Cultural Arts Series here in Houston. I'm also the current Harris County chairman for the Republican National Hispanic Assembly. And I have been chairman in Harris County for 6 years. I'm also currently running for state chairman at this time. And so those are some of the things that I do.
Awesome.
Well, let's talk a little bit about politics. As you know, there's going to be a good race coming up for governor. Wendy Davis, obviously, is going to be running against Greg Abbott. Now, what do you see some of the main issues being for the race?
Well, of course, some of the main issues are just really focused around the fact that she is so new. And, you know, I'm not one of those people that talks dirty about anybody, and I'm not going to talk dirty about her. I've always told people when they come to our meetings that my goal is to educate them, you know, and you cannot only educate people on one side. So if you come to some of my meetings, as you have been to some of my meetings, Ben, because they can hear both sides of the issue. When they go into the political booth, they're by themselves, and they will make the decision. My only hope is that I have had some type of impact. And to me, the most crucial thing about Wendy Davis, there's nothing negative about it, but it's a new name. I mean, it's a name that has been around for 1 year, and she's running for governor. So as you know, it's very difficult when you're the first trying to do something for the first time. It takes a little more work. And Mr. Abbott, of course, has been in our political system for so many years. And you know, Texas is a Republican state. So it's still very hard to tell the common man on the street that we need to change things here, because, you know, it can get very confusing for Latinos when you look at national television shows and everybody talks so wonderfully about Texas, and Texas is used as a model for so many things. And then if you take them in a room and say, hey, we need to go another way, a lot of people are like, why? You know, why? You know, and that's the main sell right now for Wendy Davis, is why are we going to change directions right now?
So what does the organization stand for? You know, because there's a lot of interpretations of the topics, right?
Yes. What we do, again, my focus is just on education. Just on education, and just trying to tell the Latino community what we have in common, what they have in common with the Republican Party. Most of all, as you know, conservative has become such a dirty word out there. If you're a conservative, you're just a horrible person. You hate everybody. But unfortunately, you know, looking at my upbringing, my mother and my father, my grandparents were very conservative in their beliefs. And those are things that have always been instilled in my heart, and it's just a natural way of thinking to me. You know, we have situations going on here in Houston that affect Latinos. The subjects that the mainstream thinks are acceptable in the Hispanic community are still kind of taboo. I mean, we have our mayor that just got married. And I was on several news programs after the wedding. You know, I showed everybody the famous picture that was released of Anise and her partner and the priest or the reverend behind them. And, you know, I tell people, what we tell people is, you know, you have to go home and tell your children. You can't ignore those issues. You have to tell them and explain to them what they're seeing, because they are seeing these things. And it's fine what you tell them, as long as you give them some type of belief and don't let them be confused about it. But, you know, if your household believes in that, then you need to explain, you know, these are two women. This is an Episcopal priest here that has performed this ceremony. If you're Catholic, then you need to explain to your children, we do not believe in this. These are two women. This cannot happen. This is not a Catholic priest. You know, you have to explain to them what the role is. You know, don't just let them see something and it's confusing.
I will tell you, I've spoken to your group a couple times, and I appreciate you opening your doors for me. As a Democrat walking into a Hispanic assembly, I felt very comfortable talking to everybody, and I appreciate you extending the hand.
Yes, yes. And we do that to everyone. One of the things that I'm very proud of is actually when Anise Parker ran for mayor, I always extend an invitation to all candidates. You know, I don't look at their background. You know, if someone's going to represent us, whether they be Democrat or Republican, they're going to represent us. So I invite everyone. And when she ran for mayor the first time, you know, they had the runoff election, and right after the election, we were having our Republican Christmas party, and I get a phone call, you know, from during the party that says, "Can you go out to the parking lot?" I went out to the parking lot, and I'm like, "What's going on?" And this guy says, "The new mayor is about to come to your party, and we just want you to receive her." And you know, we were very honored that, you know, the mayor chose us as one of her first appearances. But it shows, you know, I extend that welcome feeling to everybody, you know, because the word gets out. That's how you get your message across. And I'm sure Ben, being such a staunch Democrat as he is, I mean, he has to agree with some of the things that I say, just like I agree with some of the things that he says. Yeah. But the whole point of it is that we don't want to cause animosity in the community. When I'm doing an interview on television, the first thing I have to tell people is, I'm not a monster. I'm not a monster, you know, because we've gotten to that point that, you know, you say Republican, it's like, oh, this person is going to kill us all. You know, look at what they're doing. No, I'm not a monster. I'm a person just like everybody else. And I'm a Christian. I'm a heavily religious person and a leader in the religious community also.
And I think that's one of the biggest points that we got to cover here, or got to stay focused on, is that there's a lot more things that we have in common than we don't.
Yes.
You know, and if we really look at the issue is, you know, who's going to run our government? Who's going to run it in a profitable way? Because anybody who thinks that government doesn't need to be run like a business is just flat out ignorant. Oh, yeah. I can say that outside. You know, it doesn't matter where you're at. The government is a business, and there has to be incomes and there has to be expenses, and we have to work within our budget, and we have to stay positive. There needs to be surpluses, just like any other business. You know, and then we have situations right now where our political system, regardless of the Democrats or the Republicans, we haven't had good business running the government. You know, both parties have abused the way the business is run. That's why we're in such heavy debt at every level. So for the Republicans that are in power and the Democrats, you know, one thing I've learned is that conservative applies to whoever's in office at that moment. They want to conserve their position. That's right. You know, so right now Rand Paul came down and had a presentation, and he warned that Texas might turn blue. You have any comments on that? Again,
you know, that people make those statements. A lot of times any politician is going to make a statement. I mean, I do it myself. You make a statement when you want, you know, to be on the air. I refrain from all of that type of negativity, just simply because, again, my goal is to educate, not to make people hate each other. I admire those politicians that will come out and make those broad statements. I guess if I did them, I would get a lot of national coverage. And I'll give you an example. Several years ago, there was a group in Arizona that tried to do a tea party for Hispanics, and they called it the tequila party. And so I got a call that we're forming the tequila party and blah 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 for Hispanics. And of course, I wrote to the lady because I was asked to join it. And I wrote to the lady. I said, look, what kind of example are we doing for our Hispanic community? I said, couldn't we have chosen something else besides tequila? I said, we're encouraging our children to join this, and it sounds like we're about to not have a political party, but just a real knockdown, drag out, drunken party of Hispanics with sombreros and tequilas. Well, I want you to know that 2 days later, the Phoenix Sun comes out with, Eduardo Lopez de Casas from Houston, the leader of the Republican Party. We're sure he's some little crabby old man sitting in some room just hating everybody. And again, I learned from that, those kinds of statements, that's not what I want to do. Because already there are people in Arizona that immediately just started hating me.
Join the club.
Who wants that? Yeah, who wants that?
If we're not hated, that means we're not doing our job.
No, but I mean, the reason some people go into these issues, which is the reason I did it, is to help people, not so that they could hate me.
Okay.
I'm just curious because there's been a lot of discussion about the fight in the Republican Party between the Tea Partiers, the real right conservatives, and the ones that are more left. So what is your take on the differences in opinions of the Tea Party and others?
That's something that I'm not really worried about because in my chairmanship as Harris County Chairman of the Republican National Hispanic Assembly, I have encountered a lot of roadblocks from the GOP just simply because I am Hispanic and leading this group of people. It's something that does not bother me in the least because we are the majority. And that's good news for me because I know that we can take the GOP as Hispanics and mold it into the future.
Okay. So let's kind of go through some bullet points for the organization. So who could be the ideal candidate for the organization?
The ideal candidate for our organization is just someone bright, someone personable, someone who cares about the community, someone who's involved, like Ben Mendez, for example.
Just you, not me.
Let's drink to that.
Yeah. The funny thing about politics is that it has changed so much, just like our community. Because of social media, it has changed. And I'll tell you what the biggest change has been, is that we're not into that stuffy box of, white business suit, blonde hair has to run for office. Now it's like anybody can run for office. And that is a big advantage for us as Hispanics. Because, a lot of Hispanics are afraid to go into the arena because, I don't have an Armani suit. I don't have this. Well, now that's not a worry. That's not a worry. You can have blue jeans and a T-shirt. As long as you care and people know that you care, you have a chance of leading.
So who are the rising stars, if you will, of the Republican Hispanic community?
Well, of course, Ted Cruz. It doesn't get any better than that.
I'm talking about local politics.
Local politics in the Republican Party right now, we don't have anyone right now, really, to tell you the truth.
Okay.
We have people like me that are working in grassroots, but I'll make this point clear to you. I'm not planning to run for mayor or for city council or anything like that. And so, I think that those of us that are really intensely working in the Republican Party are working on grassroots and not for any other intent. As we work for grassroots, of course, one of the things that I'm doing, of course, I'm looking for people out there my group is looking for those young people that we can mentor and grow in a couple of years to run for city council or mayor or whatever.
Like Ben Mendez.
Like Ben.
So do you have anybody that's going to be interested in running for mayor that's Republican, Hispanic?
Well, to tell you the truth, that's something that I've been pondering for the longest. And I really am, particularly with this wedding and stuff, I'm beginning to think, that I might be called to action. Because again, I've been working grassroots for so long, I've been very happy. But I'm not happy with the situation that we're in here. I'm not happy with, the potholes. I mean, simple things. I want to understand how the crux of the city politics works. And by that, what I'm saying is that there's not one person that we have not talked to in my organization for the last 8 years that comes in there and says, including Anise Parker, that they're going to fix the streets and they're going to do this and do that. I want to get in there and find out why it's not done. Because for some reason, we have horrible streets. And it doesn't bother me because you're not going to be able to fix everything. But when you go down the medical center, Main Street, Greenbrier, and these main thoroughfares, and they are horrible. I mean, I have to drive 30 miles an hour because I don't want to wear my tires out. Mm-hmm. And I have to wonder, what is it about city politics that gets these people elected and then they can't fix it?
So, I think that's a good lead into our to the next focus. We're going to talk about the growth of Houston.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to invite you to stay with us. We're going to bring in a couple of CPAs. We're going to talk about the potential growth and the difference that's going on in Houston. Ready?
Well, I wanted to hear him sing during our break. So I know for our viewers out there, we have an opera singer here, and a very good one at that. Mm-hmm. And I've asked him to sing while we go on break, and I hope our producer is ready back there, and I hope your voice is ready.
Oh, my
But just to give him a little snapshot of what you can do, because I know you're very, very talented. Mm-hmm. And he sings, by the way, with a choir and an opera group on Sundays, I believe, every once in a while. I'm assuming you still do that.
Well, I'm the director of the Spanish choir at All Saints Catholic Church, and I also have a children's choir, and so I direct every Sunday.
Okay, so this should be prime time for you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Ave Maria, gratia plena, Maria, gratia plena. Is that enough?
That's enough. You're giving me goosebumps right here. I was like, what? Welcome back. You're still watching Latino Talk TV. I hope you enjoyed the singing we just had. It was I had goosebumps right now. So thank you so much. We also have some guests with us. We're going to let them introduce themselves, but they're here from the Cámara de Empresarios Latinos. They're two CPAs that are here operating in Houston also, but they're going to talk to us about the growth in the Latino community, the opportunity for business owners, and also the difference between hiring a CPA and a bookkeeper. Because in our community, especially in Texas, we do a lot of fly-by-nights. We believe in being mavericks in business. Everything we do is we just kind of put our boots on and go get it. But we leave a lot of things open at the very end, and we end up costing ourselves a lot of money, right, Ben?
Cleaning up the mess.
We clean up our messes, and it's really not that bad of a deal to try to do it right from the very beginning. So that being said, please introduce yourself.
Thank you for the opportunity, Jose. I'm CPA Roberto Manzano. I come from Puerto Rico with 25 years of experience, and I'm going to introduce you my partner.
I'm CPA Ana Marta Bahamonde from Puerto Rico too, and we are starting our business here in Houston.
The Puerto Ricans are taking over.
That's right.
Yes.
So let's talk about you want me to? I'm going to be your Vanna White today.
Okay, great.
And this is live television. So also, if you're out there, we're going to put the phone number on the screen in a little bit. Make sure you call in if you have any questions in regards to what we're talking about.
Sure.
So first things first. So why in Texas? Why are you coming from Puerto Rico?
Well, we come from Puerto Rico, and many people from all over the nation are moving to Texas for a certain reason. In the last few years, the state has enjoyed a growth of 4.8%. That has been a consistent rate for the last 5 years approximately, and certainly leads the nation in that sense. But for us in the Hispanic market and Latinos here, the important thing is that we are presently approximately less than 40% of the population here in Texas. Mm-hmm. And the projections are that within 10 or 15 years, we should be more than 50% of the population. So that's a real opportunity for growth in the Hispanic market. Texas as a state policy is open for business. They try to reduce all the red tapes, and really it's easy for you to make a start of it here. But as Jose mentioned earlier, it's nice to start with the right foot, and it takes planning, takes advice, and sometimes Hispanics tend to think that CPAs are out of the reach at the beginning, and probably they should be knocking our doors at that time. Okay. So that's why Texas is a good place.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm very impressed that there's education about this by the Cámara de Empresarios, because the Cámara de Empresarios is made up of a lot of business owners that are from other parts of the world, if you will.
Correct.
And it's so important that they understand the laws, especially when it comes to the IRS, because the IRS is someone you don't want to mess with.
Correct.
Yeah, so I appreciate the efforts that you all have in educating our community.
And it's important to know that, as you mentioned, you don't want the IRS knocking on your door, and if they do, you better be prepared. And you can do that with proper planning, which can be done. And we have within the community the resources to do that. But you know what? It's also important. I wanted to show another graphic we have. In relation for our youngsters, this is a trend that was prepared at Texas CPA Society. The only graph important here is you see this curve of increase here shows the projected increase in the Hispanic market. If youngsters look at that, that's not a problem. That's a big opportunity. You have to look at this as an opportunity to look out for future education in finance, in accounting, in administration, because you young guys should be taking care not only of the Hispanic community, of all the state of Texas. And education is going to be the key here. But we have to know where we stand right now. We are probably at the first step of the ladder. There are many steps to be climbed, and education will bring that to us.
So tell me, why did y'all choose to become CPAs, and how did, you're both from Puerto Rico,
I can answer that for them. I mean, they wanted to count money.
They like counting the money, but in all seriousness, we have, University of Houston here. We have tons of people, going to school, but they all get marketing degrees.
Right.
Becoming an accountant or a finance major, it's few and far between. Like, I'll be honest, I have an operations management degree. But it's like the more and more I'm in business, the more I realize how important it is to understand, the fundamentals of accounting and business through the dealing with CPAs. So how did y'all get into it? What's y'all's story behind that?
Well, basically, one of the things that attracted us both as a couple and individuals, is the variety of things you can do as a CPA. Normally, people tend to think of taxes only. Well, this is only one part of that. You actually have to get involved with planning. People that you just study a master's in administration can have a similar base like us, but basically we're trying to look at this from a financial, from an insurance standpoint. When you look even at projections and future plans, we have to mix in marketing techniques. So our profession is very ample in that sense, okay? And it does not fight with MBAs. It's not a fight. It just complements. Normally the same thing happens in health industries. You'll have nurses and technicians of labs, but you have your physicians, you have the doctors. So you have different levels of people who can work together in the same direction. The same thing happens here.
So you get 2 for 1, and if they hire you,
Right.
get husband and wife.
Right.
Oh, yes.
So as a woman, as a CPA, has there been any challenges in that environment?
Oh yeah, all my life. Basically, when I started in the profession, specifically in Puerto Rico, only very few women were involved. As a matter of fact, during that year, it was the first woman to be in our firm was the first woman to be a president of the CPA Society, and basically it was very. But nowadays, the trend has changed, and now more women are CPAs
Right.
than men.
More than 50%.
So basically, have turned to be that women are more attracted to this profession. I guess basically they like to count more money and and control things. That's important.
control- That's right.
Well, I can tell you right now, let's be honest, my wife is the CPA in my house.
You see? So basically, the important part is to get the license. After you study your bachelor degree, you go and take the test, and then you're licensed,
Yeah.
and you have to be licensed
Talking about this one.
in the state of Texas
Okay.
in order to be a CPA. And basically, you have to go through the exam, and afterwards, then you can join the Texas CPA Society, and afterwards, the Houston CPA Society. Both societies now in Texas is 28,000 members in the state of Texas, CPAs, and in Houston, it's the largest chapter, it's 8,000
Wow.
members.
So let's talk. You asked me to put this up, but let's talk about and for us as consumers out there, because the reality is we're afraid of those 3 letters. I mean, a lot of us we're afraid of those 3 letters until we actually need them.
Right.
When the IRS comes knocking on our door, or we're trying to get our house refinanced, or get any kind of lending, they ask us for those letters. Especially if you're a small business owner, you can't get anything done unless you have a CPA, stamp behind you.
Well, if you have a nonprofit and you need to be audited, I usually hire a CPA to come do your audit.
That's right.
Yeah.
So
right.
I think the graphic says a lot, but if you want to tell us a difference, or for people actually,
Sure.
even the ones choosing a career,
Sure.
what the difference is?
Right. As you mentioned before, in order to be a CPA, you have to study accounting. So you have to get your bachelor's degree, and that's the first step. But then the real difference is basically summarized here. You got to get your license, which is normally controlled by each single state, but follows a very uniform rule. It's the same exam all across the nation. So basically, the same test is given to all practicing CPAs. In the case of Texas, as you mentioned before, we have the Texas Society of CPAs and the Houston chapter. They provide a very important part of this, which is the professional oversight. We just have to follow very strict rules in order for us to issue, audited, reviewed, or compile financial statements. So it's not a matter of putting numbers there and that's it. We are subject even to continuing professional education requirements. We have to take at least 40 hours per year to maintain ourselves up to date in subjects of taxes, law changes, finance, you name it. When you compare that to other areas that are involved, like many tax preparing companies, which deal only with tax preparation, you might have personnel that's very good, but normally they receive 8 to 10 hours of education and they start filling out returns. That might be good enough for very, very small or, let's say, simple cases. When things start to get complicated, you better get the help of a professional.
That reminds me, we have a lot of scam artists that
Right.
are doing the income tax returns.
Right.
and it happens all the time in our community. Unfortunately, a lot of our folks think of anybody that's a notary public can do your taxes.
That's right. That's right.
You know, and you see it all the time on the news where somebody is scammed. Their checks don't come to their house. They somehow the
Correct.
checks are sent somewhere else.
Correct.
And so, do you run into a lot of those cases?
Yes, and we end up cleaning a lot of the messes they they create. So, but we really want to bring the message to the community that help is out there. You don't have to get yourself into trouble. If you have a very simple tax situation, there's many even free options that you can use, and they are very sure. The IRS even provides that kind of help. So you have to know that. But you have some complex situations, don't be afraid of knocking the door into a professional, because at the end of the day, you will be better off.
So let's talk about what really happens out there sometimes, right? We have some business owners that want to push the envelope until the very end. They're just gonna break the rules as far as they can. They're gonna they want to get to that point. To
Not our community.
Oh, come on now. It's everybody's community. It doesn't matter. And it goes across from the political fights right now with the immigration.
Right.
We have staunch people against immigration reform in some states because they're still benefiting from undocumented labor.
Correct.
So for that business owner that thinks he can just push until the very end, what are the consequences? What are the worst things you've seen for people that do business like that?
Well, the IRS is actually knocking on their doors, and again, they're just going to do something very simple. They're going to say, "You owe me this much," and there's nothing you can do. So that's a risk that if a business guy is willing to take it, well, go ahead. But it's an unnecessary risk, because they are actually knocking on doors of restaurants now. Professional service providers is the next target.
Construction.
Right, construction. So. And you come to think of things, expenses related to labor are valid deductions. So you have to make sure that you hire your people. It really doesn't matter how much it costs. You got a project that's going to cost X number of dollars. You make sure you get the right people there, and you get your deductions. So it doesn't make sense when you look at the numbers. And when they charge you penalties and interest, you'll see it was not worth the risk.
So let's talk about the culture now, because the majority of the businesses being opened up in Texas happen to be by immigrants and Latino businesses.
And home-based business.
And home-based business.
Internet-based.
So, and is the supply of bilingual CPAs matching the growth of business in Texas?
No, not really. We are we're less than 5% of Hispanic CPAs. 5%. It's really amazing. Again, that's a great opportunity for a young community, for them to get started in that. But presently, we are very, very underrepresented on that side. But there's always help. Okay, and in the case of, for instance, the tax season, for instance, it's a matter of taking the chance of doing your taxes now, but also taking in consideration that it's the perfect time to plan for 2014. This year, there are a lot of bad news on the taxes, a lot of tax increases, but most of those are for higher income taxpayers. Normally, you have seen maybe on the news that even the Medicare has a slight tax increase for people who make above $125,000, which is it's not that much of percent of the population. And the same thing happens with the capital gains, which was increased from 15% to 20% this year. And there are some new taxes about the investment income of up to 3.8%. A lot of increases. But then let's talk about some of the good news for local entrepreneurs. In this case, the personal exemption was increased to $3,900. And important, the mileage deduction, which we normally recommend, is much easier record keeping to take that other ways, is increased to $56.50. And we got a new deduction, which is really, as a companion CPA says, that's a gimme. It's a deduction related to the use of your home. You've got your house, a small space of that. You're allowed to take a standard deduction. You don't have to keep that many records. It's $5 per square foot up to 300 square foot. That totals $1,500, which is really very easy to take the deduction. It's a valid deduction, and very easy to demonstrate in case the IRS knocks your door. Those are some of the few but good news that we have for this year.
I am not going to get this information out of the tax place in the panaderia down the street on Irvington. You know what I'm saying? And that's the kind of stuff that, even me as a business owner growing up in Houston, that's how I used to do business. You know, the word of mouth, la comadre, el compadre, a ver quién sabe, quién conoce, and then we end up doing it, and then we don't find them anymore. So, any other tips for a small business owner?
Certainly. You have to look for the future too. Good opportunity for planning now to think about the deductions you can take in relation to the IRAs, be those either simple IRAs or Roth IRA. Now is a good time. You can start with as low as $50 a month. So don't be afraid of thinking about large numbers about that. Just get that idea in your mind. The Hispanic community does not have the culture of saving. We should, and just trying to be in compliance with all the rules will get all of us into the mainstream, which is very important. If we're going to make changes in this community, we have to be part of that, and compliance is an important thing.
I have a question for Eduardo, but I also want you to give the information to how people can reach you.
Okay.
So Eduardo, you as a nonprofit tier, if you will, I'm sure you deal with CPAs, audits all the time. Is there any questions that you have from these two?
Not really any questions, because after you've been doing it for several years, you get used to it, as long as you don't do anything out of line or anything different. But just one of the things that is fascinating that we had been talking about in the green room is that graphic that he showed of the increase in the Hispanic community. I don't think you can emphasize it enough for young people to choose that as a career. Because those jobs are going to be there, and that's one of the biggest questions that I get in my organization from our young people is, what do I do? And that question comes from people that are in college that will come and say, where do I go from here? So that's good information for me to take out into the community, because, and also, as you said, we don't get this information from our comadres and compadres, but we need people that actually speak Spanish to be able to relay this information to our community.
So for more educational information, where can we reach you if we need some more information about that?
Sure. We can be reached at our email. It's mbcpas@gmail.com, or our office phone numbers, which is 281-671-6856.
Okay, and we thank the empresarios for having y'all join us today.
Okay.
The Cámara de Empresarios Latinos is an organization here in Houston. It's a Spanish-speaking organization that's just dedicated to educating the Latino business owners or multilingual. It's not just Latinos. You speak Spanish, you can join the empresarios. So thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thanks for the opportunity. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, we're going to take a real quick break, and we're going to come back with our last segment of the show, which is going to be talking about the Serve team. We'll be right back. welcome back. You're still watching Latino Talk TV. I hope you're enjoying the show. Now we have our guests from the Serve team. We're going to let them introduce themselves so they can talk about the walk that they're doing and all the great work that they're doing in the community. So please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Tabitha Gonzalez.
I'm JT Dillard.
I'm Vanessa Moreno.
So tell us a little bit about the Serve team.
Basically what the Serve team is, it's an opportunity for anyone to come and help the community in different ways, either through helping the homeless, spending time with the elderly at nursing homes, different food pantries, schools that need assistance from us. So it's basically us giving back to the community in any way that's needed.
So how did y'all get involved with this? I mean, because y'all are all young and you probably look like you people should be partying all the time instead of serving.
We out here serving the community.
Yeah, so how did y'all get involved? What moved you to do it?
Well, pretty much, so we all go to the same church, right? It's called the 429, and we are Christians, and so once we gave our life to Christ, I mean, we got involved at our local church. Crazies, I mean, people from all nationalities that go there, we got involved, and one of the things that we talk about at our ministry is gather, connect, and serve. So serve is a big part of what we do. You know, it's not about being served, but it's about serving others. So hence the Serve team. Yeah.
You know, I saw a newspaper clipping and also a Channel 2 clipping about this gentleman that bought food for those that could not buy their lunch. I don't know if you saw that or not. But that was very touching, knowing that someone, the complete stranger, didn't know the kids at all, actually paid the food for these kids that needed food. So I applaud your efforts as well. Anything to help our youth, especially those that cannot help themselves, whether it be the homeless or even the veterans that are struggling.
Yeah.
So I applaud your efforts. Now, your question earlier was how they got involved. Now, I will tell you that the Serve team, they've had a lot of kudos because they've done a lot of great things in the past couple of years. And so this is an ongoing thing, right?
Yes.
It's not like a one-time thing. This is like
Right.
year-round. You do it, I'm assuming, every weekend?
Yes,
Yes.
every week.
Every Sunday, Saturday?
Different days of the week.
Okay.
Talk about your schedule now. So like, what do you have and what are we trying to accomplish? And like, because you're over here being real quiet over there.
Yes,
So
well, we are actually all here to serve, and we serve different people, different ages. Every weekend we do have an activity going on, whether it be at the homeless center, nursing home, feeding the people, and there's always something going on, and you see people from all ages, all backgrounds, and that's why we're here. We're actually here to promote one of our main events, which is our annual walk. And the purpose of the walk is to gather different people, again, from ages and backgrounds that are very different, very various. And we have one cause to raise funds and raise donations to fund wells. And at the same time, and during the walk, we have vendors that come and promote their business and their organizations, and we get our walk expenses through those vendors. We also award our top 3 walkers and for raising the most donations, and we recognize our team for their hard work, and we recognize our sponsors as well.
Sounds there's a lot of people involved, you know.
you want to walk?
Actually, it's funny you mentioned that. This past Sunday, I walked at Memorial Park, first time in I don't know how long. So I'm all about trying to get my weight down. As you know, I need to lose some weight. I'm sure you didn't notice, right?
The camera only added 30 pounds.
Yeah, the camera adds 15 pounds automatically.
No.
That's why I have to sit up straight.
So I'm all about fitness, even though this has nothing to do with fitness program. But I think we need to encourage our youth to get more involved.
Right.
Obesity is a big problem in our community, as you know. So getting back to the 5K, I'm putting on a 5K as well. I'm also putting together a pet parade, where you can bring your pets and you can actually dress up your pets. So,
Okay.
so Jose, bring your pet.
I don't have any pets.
Great.
Your pet snake.
Yes.
So when is your walk?
It's on March 22nd.
Okay.
It's on March 22nd. It'll be held at TC Jester Park. And March 22nd, I don't know if you guys knew this, but March 22nd is the World Water Day. So we picked, that's the perfect day to raise money and to have this walk, we decided.
So tell us a little bit about the wells. I know you go outside of the country and you install the wells. Tell us a little bit more.
So it's basically in countries that don't have access to clean water. So wherever these places are, whether it be Uganda, whether it be South America, whether it be wherever these places are, okay, we partner with the Thirst Project, and they go out and they get a team together to build a well in places that don't have access to clean water. People are dying, so they go to these places that may have lost thousands of lives who didn't have access to clean water. They go to that place and then they build this well. And the well doesn't last 5 years. It doesn't last 10 years. At minimum, the well lasts 25 years. Yeah, so it's definitely something that's going to last a long time and save a lot of lives.
And how much does each well cost?
It depends. It can average anywhere from $5,000 to up to $15,000. It just depends on how desolate the area is. So, I mean, we have places like Uganda and El Salvador where it can cost about $5,000 to where in Swaziland it's so desolate there that it can cost up to $15,000. But with each well that's built, at least 500 lives are being impacted.
I can imagine where there's no water to have a well.
Yeah.
I mean, I can just see the benefits right away. Not only disease control, but just having water. Everybody needs water.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about the people that actually go and install these wells. Do you take a team as volunteers, or you just let someone else handle it for you?
Basically what we do, we provide the funds to have these well built, and so with that, the Thirst Project, they're based in Los Angeles, they come into play to where they have the contacts and the relationships built in different countries where these needs are identified. So what's awesome is not only are they going with a team to provide a new well that's going to be built, but they also bring a business opportunity for someone there that may not have a job to where they can get paid for funding a well. So it's different, contacts that are helping a group of people that don't have water and don't have a job.
So there's some business owners watching the show right now. Can they sponsor a well?
They sure can, and they can also, if they want more information, they can contact via email, and it would be waterproject@the429.com.
Okay, and it's a nonprofit, so they can still, for the business person, it's a write-off.
Right,
Yes, it is.
Most definitely.
So for anybody out there that's posting too much profits, like the CPA said, a little plug into the CPA. In all seriousness, I mean, you can donate and sponsor some of these things. It's a great cause. In what else? Actually, I'm more interested. I'm interested in the cause, absolutely, but I'm also interested in the dynamics of the group. I mean, how long has the organization been around now, and how do y'all attract new members? And I'm assuming this is not a networking group.
Right.
No.
This is not a business networking group. So if you're trying to, find business leads, this is not the place to go, right?
I mean, to be honest, the 429 Serve Team has been going on for about 4 years now. What's amazing is it's open to anyone. It's open to families. It's open to high school students. It's open to business owners, entrepreneurs, anybody. And so it's something that anyone can get involved with and help. People come with their families, people bring their children, and like JT was saying, people just want an opportunity to be able to give back in any way, whether it's raising money for a well or whether it's feeding the homeless. And so these are just different opportunities that we provide, and we're constantly bringing in new volunteers because they heard from someone else, and so it's definitely word of mouth.
I like the diversity. So you have all groups, all nationalities, all age groups. So that's great. Diversity is good for everyone. And so tell us a little bit about your church. I know you said you go on Sundays, but what is different about your church compared to other churches?
Well, our church, like I said, is gather, connect, to serve. And I think our church reaches a certain demographic. We reach a lot of young adults and youth. So that's why you see, like, up here is basically a visual interpretation of what our church is. Doesn't matter your race, ethnicity. We literally have a church full of all different people from all different walks of life or whatever. And our church is based on, like I said, gather, connecting, and service. So one of the things we're doing, we're gathering, right? We're making new relationships, meeting new people outside of our own communities. We're meeting other people, meeting new people. Then we're connecting. So we build relationships with each other. Like, I love them, you know what I mean? And it's real or whatever.
Jose, I think we're left out here. That's young.
I know.
Hey, no.
It's definitely open.
Wait.
I'm only 28 again.
Now look.
28.
Look, you guys are welcome, right? Everyone's welcome. Yeah.
Young, that's what I heard, right? Young.
We're not
Young adults.
Young at heart. You know,
Oh,
Yeah.
no, we're young at heart. Dang.
I mean, you guys are putting yourself out there like you're just extremely old.
Hey,
I
man,
mean,
he's like 15 years older than me.
man, y'all
Oh,
looking
geez.
good. What, 32, 30?
Thank you.
31, right?
31.
29, 31.
There you go. Hey, no, hey. How old am I now?
Actually, he was my former teacher.
Yeah.
Really? Oh, I was about to say,
He
man.
was actually my counselor or whatever at U of H. That's how far.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He's
But
old.
yeah, man, it's
Really old.
you guys come out, man. I'm telling you.
See, when you said that
enjoy
word
it.
young, I was like, okay,
yeah.
where does that young stop?
Where did-
Right? It's like
It's
young. Not young
at
here,
age,
young.
at heart.
There's no age limit.
There's no
And
age
it's very
limit.
open also, people from different walks of life, from everything you can think of, and they walk into a place where they are welcomed. They feel at ease because they go in to hear a positive word. They get to meet other people, and it doesn't really matter where you're coming from. It really matters where you're going. And so with that in mind, we serve because we want to help the next generation, take that step further. Because
So
somebody helped
where
us
are y'all
out.
from? Each of you. Where are you all from? Houston?
Oh no, I'm from the Valley, the McAllen area.
So am I.
Girl.
I'm from McAllen.
Great. Okay, I'm from that area.
And you?
I'm from H-Town.
All right. What part of town?
Now the north side of Houston. North side of Houston, by the Greens Point, Homestead, Acres Home. See, I
Acres Homes.
come from the hood or whatever. But yeah,
You're
that's
the only one.
I knew we connected.
Come on now.
I knew we connected.
I was raised in North Side. My office is still in North Side.
Oh, for real? Yeah.
Where are you from?
I'm from Houston as well.
What part of Houston?
North part.
What part of-
Northsiders.
Like Woodlands or
Like
North
Spring
Side?
area.
Spring. Okay, you're Spring.
Yes.
See, because everybody's from Houston, you can't just say you're just from Houston. You got to claim where you're from.
You do.
You know, you
You
can't
do.
just say I'm from Houston. When I was in the military, there was a guy in tech school. You know, he was claiming Houston and all that stuff, right? And it's like he's in there. I remember like it was yesterday. We were all in the main room and all hanging out, and he's claiming H-Town and all that stuff. And I'm like, "Where are you from?" He's like, "I'm from H-Town." Like, "All right, where are you from? You know? And he's like, Sugarland. I was like, man, come on. I started clowning him right there. It's like, come on now,
bro.
Sugarland, go
You
away.
know, if you're from the north side and the south side, it's almost like two different.
It's two different
Wow.
worlds.
Like a lot of times, I'm
Really?
from the north side. I didn't even go to the south side. a lot.
Wow.
There are people who live and grow up and do everything
the
in
same
like
area.
a 5-mile radius.
Yeah.
Like Ben.
So how did we get off track here?
We didn't. So that's where we're from. So where are we going now?
Yeah.
Yes.
So we got a few minutes left. So each of y'all, obviously, different backgrounds. Now, what's the objective? What's the goal?
What I would say from my part, the objective of the team, of the serve team, of the team for the Walk for Water is to change lives. And changing lives in a way of where we're able to provide people with something that they're lacking. So the main purpose of this walk is to provide people with clean drinking water. You know, this is something that we take for granted. We go to a restaurant and we get our cup of water refilled. These people are literally dying because they don't have access to this basic necessity. And so we would just want to encourage, you know, definitely you both as well and anyone watching to be part of this walk, to register, be a walker, help us promote it, you know, any way that we can. We'd love to have, you know, any business involved, organization, school, whatever.
I think it's awesome.
You want to walk?
I'm ready.
Come on, let's go.
Great.
I'm already training at Memorial Park.
And for those who are, and also like for the walk, you don't have to be a fitness pro at all. It's a walk, so we have children that are participating and people that are older and younger. So you're welcome to come and
Notice the
bring
way
your
she
family.
said
And bring your family, or if you're a vendor, you are also welcome to participate.
So for vendors, where can they reach out to figure out how they can set up a tent or they can be out there?
They can
support?
email us at waterproject@the429.com.
Is that like the main email?
That's the main email
okay.
for right now.
So producers, can y'all put the graphic on the screen? Make sure we cover that on there so we can make sure we get that for the last 3 minutes of the show.
Yeah.
Wow. So how much are the booths and all that? Do you know the pricing?
Actually, it's only $50 to be a vendor. So not only are you able to promote your business and sell any items that you have for only $50, but with that, you're able to help us cover our walk expenses because 100% of the donations that come in go strictly to the well.
So it's a $50 donation to be able to participate. And just to be clear, there are a nonprofit organization, they're a church. So it's not like we're not selling anything. It's to support the organization. And if you want to sponsor the well, you can just come and write the check for $5,000 and be done with it.
That would be perfect. And if you are available and you're ready to do that, email us.
Sponsor a well.
Definitely.
You know, that sounds like a lot of fun.
I mean, if you think about, if you had a chance to save a life, would you? You know what I mean? Like, if you've never had that chance to just save a life, this is the opportunity. This is your chance. You know what I mean? And so just being able to give into that. You know what I mean? So this is the chance. This is it.
So are you all going to get the opportunity to go see the well itself, or you're just going to watch it from afar?
Actually, thankfully, the Thirst Project gives us the opportunity to go on what they call their celebration event. And so what they do is go and take a team to see. And I know there's actual footage that we have. I'm not sure if it's going to be shown or not. But there's actual footage of where they're able to go and visit. So we do have that opportunity, and we're definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah.
I think that would be awesome, watching the roots of whatever you did, the benefits, if you will. So no, I wish I could see the footage just to see what it's like.
And they had a couple of technical difficulties in the back. They were trying to do their best, but unfortunately we weren't able to play the video.
Yes, but we do want to share that the 4 wells that have been funded so far have impacted over 3,400 lives. And it's a blessing to see that. What the money that has been sown, what we can see has been reaped.
Right.
Interesting. So I'm just curious, what made you go to this church to begin with?
I was invited by a friend, and it was meeting with young adults and going to a church.
There she goes again.
Young adults. You viejos don't count. You bunch of old people.
But you know what? That's exactly. It was like that, and they said it's
So it
different.
was like that.
It's different from what you've seen, you know, at a church, and it was because
You
the
and I are gonna have to
dynamics
talk
were
after
very
this.
different. The dynamics are very different, and it was very. The praise and worship, the music was great. The word was very relevant and right to where it was right and exactly the way needed to receive, like almost direct, you know. Like that. It was very direct, very good. And you walked out at ease, and you met different people. You were able to connect, and also the opportunity to serve.
Yeah.
So we're,
You know, we're 1 minute left. Oh, we're actually running out of time. Unfortunately, then my producer's telling me, turn it off. No, I'm just kidding. That being said, thank you so much for watching the show tonight. I think we covered a lot of great topics, but above it all, the main important thing is if you're going to start a business, do it right. You know, talk to people, do things right. If you're also going to serve, make sure you serve the community outside your normal circles. You know, you gotta expand your network. If you look across at your friends and they all look the same, it might be time for you to start expanding and creating new friendships. So that being said, you're watching Latino Talk TV. Have a great night.